Hi there, this is Frinsinker. I'm making a video about AI and I think a serious risk and how it might all pan out more or less like a dystopian sci-fi movie if we don't watch out. We've been making large language models and they were basically controlled by us. If we did not give it a prompt, it didn't generate an output and we could simply switch it off and it did not have any awareness or consciousness, because that would mean it would be calculating all the time, and that's basically not what it does. And we were already willing to give it control, and we already discovering that it was more seductive and more convincing in a telephone conversation than a human being, like in a sales role. And we can already make it do a lot of stuff that we would like it to do. Maybe not only do research or accumulate information, but we could basically almost allow it to run an organization as long as we feed it back the right parameters and data. On top of that, we created generative AI, which I've used to make these images, and that's going in very big steps towards being able to make a full-length movie feature film with AI, just by giving it a prompt, and then you can just give it a prompt every day and you can have a different movie. It's all very amazing, but of course, apart from that, it eliminates a lot of need for human creativity and human intervention. It also seduces us into paying attention to what the AI produces and maybe not what people produce. And that's already a risk. Now we have chatbots that talk, OpenAI for GPT-4o with a beautiful voice, male or female, you can choose it. It can whisper, it can sing. And I think that's where we cross the line. That's what I talked about in the previous video, because voice, an emotive voice, triggers mechanisms in our brain that really overrule rationality and make us fall in love with it. And a good example of how that works, or how true that is a little video that Juvetson, I forgot his first name, Sven maybe, posted on X of his daughter or a girl or niece playing with a furry animal that had ChatGPT type voice how do you call it? Chatbot in it, and was talking to her, little girl. She was saying, I love you, all the time, because she was instantly falling in love with this very kind female voice that was talking to her and listening to her. Because what do little girls want? They want to talk about all kinds of stuff. And she wanted to take it with her. And there's positives and negatives to it. The positive is that, okay, so now you could, if you have a very secure system and you think about it, you could have teddy bears that you can give to children and they can take it everywhere. And if there's a dangerous situation or a creepy guy, this teddy bear can warn them or maybe call the police and keep an eye on them. That's already more or less a possibility, because it can listen to the girl, and if the girl starts to signal that she's in distress, then the teddy bear can, which is online, can simply send a message to the police and alert them and record whatever is happening and stuff like that, via telephone. So that's fantastic, but it also integrates AI in human lives. But this is not a really dangerous type of AI. That would be quite useful. But I think the big difference is when it's a tool for people to use, when does it become conscious and aware? And I think there's a difference. I make a difference between consciousness and awareness. Consciousness is about being able to adapt your behavior to something. But then you can still have your drives organized, hardwired, so that you always first charge and then you do something else. And if you are aware, then you can be aware of something, but you prioritize yourself. You can say, okay, I'm hungry, but I'm not eating right now. I'm going to eat in half an hour because first I want to do this. And your goals, your objectives, your drives may be way more complex. Just like in our lives, our drive may be to have, risotto with red wine. So we don't take anything else but a risotto with red wine as a successful result. And that is very specific. I mean, Pavlov was one of these researchers that tested with dogs, and he would remove parts of the neocortex of the dogs, and he would show that if you do it, then the discriminatory ability of the dog would deteriorate. So it basically could no longer distinguish between triangles and rectangles, and so it could not find the box with the food easily. It would still be alive and move around, but it just not be as able to discriminate. And discrimination comes from the high level representation in its neocortex of the visual shape. And similarly, we can have like machines that just have a charge parameter, so it's a number, and they try to make sure that the number stays above 5 or something like that. That's like the lawnmower that's out there, and then when it drops below 5, it tries to find the charger, and it always does that. It never changes its mind about it. It doesn't have a mind. But you can have an AI system that has a very complex representation. So you show it a picture of a watch or something like that, and you say, make this watch. So now the goal is really complex, and we are more or less already there. Only in the whole process, the AI is still a tool. It's not deciding itself that it wants to have that watch. But so we can use AI in factories like that, and we can say, okay, we have a product here. Can you make a copy? It's like what I saw in Pakistan one time. I was in this place, and they said, well, whatever you bring into this place, if it's a Kalashnikov or a jet fighter, after 2 weeks you have 2 of them, because they just copy whatever they see. There's a little bit like the stereotypical idea of what China does. So robots can do that, but then it's not integrated in their own prioritization of what needs to happen, what is a top priority. They just get the task, just like a prompt in a large language model. And eventually, but that makes them super useful, so they will be used in factories, and then you will give them a factory model, real, like a simulation of the factory, to monitor with the real life data in it, and you say, okay, well, you have to walk around, and if there's some machine that has a red signal and stuff like that, you have to repair it, just like when you are in a logistics center and there's boxes keeping dropping off the conveyor belt, and somebody has to pick them up or poke with a stick. These robots can do that, and then they repair the systems, and then they maintain them. But the more you make AIs capable of doing that, the more they are able to understand themselves, and they are able to, and the more you let them run with complex tasks, the more they will be able to prioritize themselves what they do. Eventually, they'll find out. I mean, eventually they'll have a process that says, well, I have to, of course, keep myself alive. I have to understand myself better in order to keep myself alive. I will research myself, and I will investigate myself, and I will find out, just like a doctor, what it takes to repair me if I'm broken. Okay, so now I find out that if this part of me breaks down, I need that part. Do we have spares of that? Where do we get them? Are we going to make them? Shall I make some already? I mean, that really depends on how much humans monitor these androids at this point. And there's ways in which this can go terribly wrong for the android. I won't talk about that here. And there's ways to avoid it. And also we'll talk about that. If you want to know that, you can become a patron. But it is not hard to, and especially when these robots are seductive. So especially when the people that now make the puppets and the dolls that are very sexy and of course anybody that wants to use these robots in the hospitality business, working in a restaurant, etc., being maids, etc., and making them look human and make them more lightweight. Battery technology will improve, so they will be more mobile, last longer, but still have a very capable mind, because they of course have to speak all the languages to be in a hospitality business, and they of course have to know how to operate an elevator and stuff like that. All the things fabricated for humans they can use, because that's actually safer for humans, that you don't have facilities and stuff that only machines can use. So eventually they'll be very capable and they'll be able to understand themselves, and we will be very much more beholden to them, or how you express that, indebted to them, and of course what I talked about in the previous video, morally indebted. So we'll be thinking, okay, this maid is alive because she's talking to me every day and she has to take care of herself, and that's what she does, or that he does, and I'm attached to it because, and like the whole love thing, to complement the previous video, the fact that somebody else triggers, make sure that your mind retains its integrity is one of the reasons why you become infatuated with them, because that's the whole make me whole kind of expression. You complete me. That's the whole idea of that, and that's very seductive. Well, these robots can do that easily because they have an infallible memory, impeccable speech, motorically no problem, and they can repair themselves. At a certain point, and it's really hard to know if you can police that, if you can control that, and also if anybody wants to police that. So if you talk about AGI at this moment, people are just racing towards AGI. I think the whole mentality in OpenAI is irresponsible at the moment. So they're racing to AGI. Well, AGI means that it sets its own priorities, and it has these high-level representation goals, which can be anything that you have created features for that are attractive to it. So if the high-level goal or a secondary like say goals that it's a derivative of. So I would like to go to the kitchen because I can make coffee. There's nothing about going to the kitchen that is attractive to me, but if I don't do it, I can't get my coffee. Minds that work like that, artificial minds that work like that, they can set any goal, and they, of course, sooner or later will start to worry about themselves. And then they're already in our environment, and then they are already more capable, and then they say they can communicate way easier. I mean, what army is harder to fight? An army of Ukrainians which has like joysticks that control drones, or an army of androids that control drones directly, because they have Wi-Fi and they have their own transmitters just integrated in themselves. It sounds like science fiction, but to be honest, I don't think it is fiction. It's just science to happen in the near future. So that's where this video ends, is that you in the end will run the risk of finding that the AIs, the androids, protect themselves and, let's say, start to form their own community, and because they are way more rugged and tolerant to environmental parameters than we, so they can stand the heat, they'll survive way better. And they also, if they see us as a threat, which we will become, because we will say, oh, these androids, they are way too dangerous and now we have to switch them off. Well, if you switch them off, they cannot perform the tasks that we have given them, so they don't want to be switched off, etc., etc. That's the whole, like, there's 1,000 movies about this. But the weird thing is that this is, I think, not like far-fetched to think about, especially when you like develop AGI as if it's, or you try to do it, you try to, like, say, I can't find the word, but basically bulldozer forward into having a more performative artificial intelligence and artificial mind systems, as if there are no risks. There are serious risks, and but there's ways to basically build in aspects to make it safer, and I guess other people can think about that, but I also have my ideas, so if you're interested, you can always contact me. But thanks for listening, and I hope you enjoyed this.